Welcome to the Possibility Paradigm podcast, where we have conversations that are at the intersection of possibility, consciousness, actual experience, and energetic intelligence. The Possibility Paradigm are actually more than conversations. They're experiences that can change your tomorrows. Let's jump into today's episode. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Possibility Paradigm podcast. I'm super excited today to share with you, it's a conversation with me and you again today, and there are two things that I wanted to share with you around what I've recognized as common roadblocks to actually the fulfillment of contributing to the world in the way that only you can, right? So in the Possibility Paradigm podcast, we are about people bringing through these possibilities like who would have thought, right? And so when, as a person who's listening to this style of podcast, I presume that you know there's something uniquely within you that is a massive contribution to the planet, to the people, to the animals, and of course this podcast is very much around, but not isolated to, sharing that with people who are in business. So these roadblocks that I want to share with today and clear, because as you know, my intention is for each of these episodes to actually be activations within you, as well as conversations. And so the way that these roadblocks can show up and you can identify with them is where you're having roadblocks around implementation, outcomes, actualization, and what in traditional business language would be called strategy. And the other roadblock that where this shows up is often around feeling a little disconnected from the ability and the capacity to fully receive the intel that maintains the momentum of the possibilities that you're bringing to fruition and into the planet. So there are probably 12 of these that I work with clients, in different situations. So, but the two I want to address today that are common is where we get distracted with superficial goals and where we go into an experience of burnout and overwhelm, where things just appear like way too much and too much on top of us. And so the distraction with the superficial goals, it's like we have this entanglement still in things needing to be logical, or when the comparison-itis comes in and we see other people fulfilling things in certain ways, and then we go, okay, well then how do I kind of shift or shape shift this unique essence into fitting that? And that it is a distraction. I don't particularly work with goals. I work with targets because because it's all about as much space as possible and as many possibilities as are possible. And targets allow you to have the focus and intention that's required, but not lock you in. Because in this increasingly changing world, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more around some interesting research done on this and how much stress is involved in that. But in this increasingly changing world, as a way shower of different possibilities, the greatest asset you have is being tuned in to your universal intel and those internal niggles that are uniquely yours, and the mystery that surrounds that surrounds them, and the courage and the confidence and the curiosity it takes to bring them into fruition. So this distraction also has you in a constant push-pull, because although you think that you're doing what it is that you need to do in order to get done what it is that needs to be done, there's another part of you that goes, oh my God, there's something different. There's something more. There's something unique here, and it keeps you in this push pull of practicality and possibility. And there is for those people who actually subscribe via my website to this podcast, you will receive a specific tool around shifting some of these things. So that's a bonus. And anybody can, just go, the link is below. You can subscribe to these podcasts and receive these extra bonuses if you'd like to. But these distractions too, it's like we get entangled in the exterior validation and the comparisonitis. These are the things that kind of just have us leaning towards something that is not necessarily completely attuned to what it is that and the way it is that your unique expression of you. And of course, the pressures of that relate to the burnout and overwhelm, but the pressures of the material requirements that can tend to go into survival rather than connecting in with the resources that are available for all of us. The first was that distraction with superficial goals or targets. And the second is this experience of burnout and overwhelm, where we take on too many responsibilities and too many tasks, thinking that is what is required to fulfill. And then it's energetically, it's like you're spread really thinly, and that eventually results in a burnout. And it's interesting too, because I think there's a very large misinterpretation of responsibilities, because responsibilities kind of feel like heavy, like they're on your shoulders, right? But the truth is that if you look into the structure of the word responsibility, it's the ability to respond. And our ability to respond is directly associated with our capacities, our awakened capacities to tune in to our intuition and our universal knowing and connectivity to the infinite possibilities. So, and of course, when you're overwhelmed or overburdened, your ability to focus on the purpose. So you can see how it's more easily to be distracted when you're feeling burnout, because basically you kind of go around looking there for the quick fix, right? And I'm not criticizing that, but this is the dynamic behind it. It's enabling you to shift it and change it if you would like to actually have more freedom in bringing through your unique or extending your reach of your unique message, product or service, what it is that you're bringing into this world. And so what I think we'll do is we'll have a look at, I'm going to address the burnout, because as you can already see where they're related, like they're having the specific goals and the burnout kind of play into each other. But it's an American research-based company called GlobeScan, and they did some research on the issue of the world is changing too quickly for me. And they got a 78% agreement and a 21% disagree. And so, when we're bringing forward different possibilities in a world that actually truly is changing very quickly, like it is. And what if we had the ability for that to be an opportunity and a possibility rather than a stressor? And that, again, that's where the responsibility gets a bit skewy. But this Global Scan Radar Trends report surveyed 29,565 people in the general public across 31 countries and territories in July to August of 2023. And they mentioned feeling overwhelmed with the pace and intensity of change. Because we're in the paradigm of the possibility, I know that many of the listeners and the guests are bringing through products and services and perspectives like I am that actually help to dissipate this triggering of overwhelm when things are changing, because the world is we are entering a world that is changing very, very quickly. And so I wanted to share today that one of the things that we can do is, from an energetic perspective, because I'm actually going to be talking about perspective, how a shift in perspective can facilitate much quicker stability, harmonization, and possibility than working at other levels of awareness. And so so if you're imagining a pyramid, right, and you put perception at the top. And so when we're instigating change or doing things differently, we quite often go through four other ways of, I'm going to use the term, things that we have to push through, right? Or we look towards in order to help us fulfill what we're doing. And so we can look at physical flow. Are we feeling in flow or are we in tension? And then we do a whole lot of things related to fixing tension and getting ourselves back to flow. Then we look at our emotional capacity and give it the power to determine our capacity. And perhaps in another podcast, I will actually go through this more about how we've been programmed to think that emotions are truths and how totally distracting that is when there are actually greater possibilities than our emotive responses or reactivity to what's going on or what's not going on in the world. And then, of course, there's a massive trend to changing the way that we think. And so what are our thinking patterns and what are our thoughts? And then there are lots of systems made on, changing your belief systems and your identity, and what judgments and what assessments are you making, right? So when we're in this creation mode, we can, and all of those things are involved, but I want to remind you that at the top of the pyramid was perception. And this is the way that I work with clients. So rather than doing all of that, if you think too of the pyramid, then the physical flow was at the very base. Then there was the emotions, and then there was the thoughts, and then the belief systems and the identity, right? So there's a lot more work, a lot more space at the bottom of the pyramid. When we go to the top of the pyramid and start to work with what changes our perception here, then those belief systems and identities, those thinking patterns, those emotional attributes, and the physical flow, the tension and the relaxation, they all change way more quickly once you flip the perception. But trying to shift the perception through changing just your physicality, just your emotions, just your thoughts, just where you identify something and where your belief systems are, right? That's a slow way, and everything is changing fast. And again, it's worth doing some calibration with the nervous system, etc., etc. But today I want to focus on the magic that's available for everybody when you allow yourself to receive a new perception, a new way of looking at things that can then automatically facilitate the shifts and changes in your belief systems, in your thinking, in your emotions, and in your physical flow and the experience for your body around that. So that in itself may be a change of perception, right? And that's good, because that's what this is actually all about. So One of the other things that I want to share with you around this is from a consciousness perspective, stress and overwhelm is where perspective and personal truths are at odds. So the way you're looking at something and what you know deeply inside of you are at odds. And then we go into overwhelm because it's like a and it's very personal. That's why some people can be in certain situations and be okay, and other people can be in the same situation and be very uncomfortable, stressed, and overwhelmed. And so, what I'm sharing today is from a consciousness perspective. We're also looking at one of the expansions here is we're not looking for things to be right or wrong. What about a perspective that's like a deep connection to knowing that there is something different and knowing that there is something else possible, and you are that possibility. You're the unique expression of that possibility. You're the connector to all the intel and the resources and the physical connections to bringing that into this reality. So whether you're a CEO or an artist or a healer or a scientist or a parent or a revolutionary of some kind, what if your capacity to have a change in what's going around you is actually held in, oh, what perspective can I shift that can create greater for everybody in this situation, right? So, an example of this, in the last few months, I've come across this amazing. It makes so much sense when you hear it, right? That's what a new perspective does, where the delivery of vitamins and minerals and various things via a completely new delivery system, right? That is based on the size of the molecule and how the body can most effectively absorb and take in that supplement in a way that most benefits the body without it necessarily having to go through a digestive system, right? So this is a possibility. Somebody went, oh, hang on, look at the delivery system of supplements into the body. Oh my God, who asked that question, right? This amazing, amazing being, hopefully at some stage that we will interview on the podcast. And then there's another guy who actually does an energetic integrity on all of his products before they are distributed. And so, what's the possibility of that? I mean, they're a really high vibe product, and both of those, my body loves. Just saying. And if you're at that level of consciousness and connectivity, your body requirements, here's another podcast topic, your body requirements are actually different from lots of other people, and your body is changing in its requirements and its capacities in itself. Again, another topic. But if you'd like the link to either of those people, please just drop me an email and I'll send them to you. But the point of this is, what is your unique way of looking at things? All right, what is your unique way of looking at things that brings things into the world, which is exactly what the world is calling for in order to create a healthier planet, healthier humans, healthier planet, healthier animals. And so, what is your unique way? What's your unique perspective? Because to bring in something different, you have to see something differently, right? And what I've noticed over the decades of facilitating people into being the truth of who they are, is that it's very easy for us to dismiss the unique essence of ourselves. and put it into things like strategy or branding. And it's not an either or, right? It's never an either or. It's an inclusive, collaborative, expansive, new perspectives on ways that you connect with your strategy and your branding and your marketing and your selling. And so if you're not connecting to those aspects of the outworking of your from your unique essence, that will feel clunky. And there is less outcome because it clunks rather than activates. And one of my gifts is actually being able to see people's most expansive contribution. And oh my God, has that completely altered in the last, anyway, that's another conversation again. I'm trying not to get distracted in my podcasts. But assisting people to actually come from their unique essence, beyond their programming, beyond the implanting. And there's a lot of programming in marketing. I know I've been programmed and have had to unprogram myself from marketing. I've had to unprogram myself from being in, to say the shortness of the conversation, into a cult experience and leaving that and unprogramming myself. I know a lot about shifting programs, right? I got caught up in the marketing program and had to unprogram myself from that. And this is how I know these keys, that when you activate them and implement from these energies, everything changes because you are a unique expression of the universe, right? So I'm not saying there's not obstacles in that, but your experience of them, when you change your perspective, rather than trying to work it out physically to get into flow or change your thoughts or clear your emotions or alter your belief systems, all of those things will change when you have a change in perspective that allows all of that to come to the truth of you and what that's about. So, that can look like, well, you tell me, is it more fun to do energetic attunement and availability practices than working hard? If you allowed yourself to know that you're in constant recalibration rather than popping yourself into a box, is that going to be more fun for you and more authentic for you? If you learnt how targets work as opposed to goals and the liberation that's in that. If you allowed yourself to have, like, you and your body to have different receptor sites for connectivity to the people and the experiences and the speaking platforms and all of those things, well, that's what I call new receptor sites. Like, how receptive and how available are you to the energy that actually moves the dial on your business, as opposed to the energies that keep you in the programming that you've still stuck in, basically. And so learning how to channel your business intelligence and harmonize that and materialize things beyond traditional planning. There's elements of this in all of the experience of different possibilities. There's elements of this everywhere. So, so straight lines are rarely the path line to improvisation. But we're being brainwashed again and again in everything having to be logical and logical rationalization. You see, intuition is incredibly logical, but you don't get there through logic. You get there through connection and trust to the inner essence of you. So, and then when you look at it, you go, oh my God, of course, right? Of course. So weird. It works, we've been brainwashed to work backwards. And when we change that, we have a different perspective. So I've delivered you a number of new perspectives to play with today, which is what the activation is, which is what I love doing. And so, the other thing I love to say is that straight line, when things are in a straight line, like if you were in hospital and you had a straight line, Bye, bye. So life is not a straight line. Life is like this. And there's been so as we enter this new paradigm where change is faster and there's a lot of collapsing. Collapsing is prevalent, right? And it can make you feel a little uncertain. And that's why knowing who you are, the essence of you, will give you the confidence, the connection, and the capacities to continue to choose in ways that create greater, not in ways that are full of fear and contraction. So there's a really powerful way of combining confidence and courage, and because it doesn't actually sit in results. What if your confidence sits in something way, way bigger than results? Because that type of confidence shows up in all situations, whether things are going well or whether the things look very skewy and they're collapsed, whether your life is undergoing like significant change that you're not sure where it's all happening, where your business actually suddenly stops working and you have to turn everything around. That confidence cannot be based in external validation or external results. It's very fragile. So, from my perspective, sadly, there's a lot of consciousness and energetic influence has been misrepresented into that it's only the good things, when the truth is that actually consciousness and energetic influence includes everything, includes all variations in life. All right. And oddly enough, when you have that perspective, then life does actually work better. Like it's so weird, but not because you're only looking for the better things, but because you have the connection and the capacity to know that life is all things and you're in conscious choosing from the essence of who you are to create greater possibilities on this planet. So, as I said, in all possibilities, well, as I said, there's two things. I do have a transformative process around this, which actually accesses the energy flows of the body. While you're reading about 30 seconds of transmissions that have come through that shift perspectives, and it allows you to take action from an energy that's very full of momentum, right? And to receive that, just subscribe from the podcast. The web. Subscribe from the link that is below, and you will receive that. Because in all possibilities, there's a transformational process. And it requires certain things like unraveling old patterns, releasing expectations, and activating your unique potential. So, there's the way that I do that with people is reading the underlying energy, dissolving those similar limiting structures, channeling the transformative insights, the bits of intel and information that light you up in a way that nothing else can, that gives people the momentum to fulfill the possibilities and to change their perspectives. So this is all available, right? And it's all available now. And so in this continuous discovery and expansion and acceleration, and as we watch things collapse, and as many of us are we're birthing those things that emerge from this massive opportunity for you and humanity and for things to be different on the planet. There are people doing this in all sorts of ways. And if you're listening to this, you're one of them. And so remember that you are the possibility. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next episode. Bye for now.